Hello and welcome to MEE Live. I'm Matilda Mallinson. It's Thursday, the 30th of July, 2026. Today, Saudi Arabia joins America's regional war, plus the battle for Palestinian identity inside Israel. First up, the headlines. America's war in the Middle East is threatening to engulf more and more states, with a reported drone strike in Egyptian territory representing the first of its kind, if confirmed as part of the wider conflict. It follows US-Saudi Arabian strikes in Iraqi territory on Wednesday morning, the first confirmed signs of direct combat from the kingdom. And an overnight 2-hour US bombardment on Iran struck a residential house on Qashm Island, killing 3 family members, including a father, mother, and their 2-year-old child. Kuwait also says 1 worker has been killed after an Iranian attack targeting a Chinese company building in the north. Dozens of Israeli soldiers have abandoned post at the notorious Sde Teiman prison following a dispute with commanders. All the officers to hell, these are the words being chanted by dozens of fighters from the Sabar battalion as they deserted the prison base. It follows an ongoing dispute over insignia, which has not been formally disclosed. Soldiers put up signs and symbols which were removed by commanders and in one incident destroyed by a commander using a sledgehammer. Israeli media reported the signs are part of the young veteran tradition in the battalion. Commanders said they do not align with IDF values. Regional elections in Pakistan-administered Kashmir have been marred by deadly violence. At least 30 people were killed this week in clashes between police and protesters. The region, formerly known as Azad Jammu and Kashmir, or AJK, has spent the summer under an unofficial state of emergency. A banned activist group has boycotted the vote, with demonstrations, sit-ins and road blockades. The Jammu Kashmir Joint Awami Action Committee, or JAAC, is demanding the abolition of 12 assembly seats, which are reserved historically for Kashmiri refugees who mostly live elsewhere in Pakistan. Government officials justified the crackdown by alleging Indian-backed militias joined the protesters. Protesters say the seats are a means by which Islamabad exerts control over AJK's semi-autonomous assembly. Disrupted internet services and roadblocks make it difficult for news outlets to independently verify reports. The final rounds of the vote are scheduled for early August. Up next, Saudi Arabia joins the war and Iraq becomes the new battleground. Regional tensions are rapidly escalating once again as the war between the United States and Iran pulls in a powerful new player. For the first time on Wednesday morning, Saudi Arabia launched deadly strikes jointly with the US, hitting Iran-backed armed groups across Iraq. At least 20 members of Iraq's Popular Mobilization Forces, or PMF, were killed. Riyadh called it self-defense, a response to drone attacks on its oil facilities. Iran and Iraq called it a violation of Iraqi sovereignty. Iraq vowed to respond, but Baghdad is in a very difficult position, which we'll get into. The US-Saudi strikes followed Iranian strikes on US forces in Jordan, ending a fragile 13-day pause that many had hoped would hold. They came 1 week after Washington and Riyadh signed a landmark nuclear deal. It indicates a tightening of ties and a growing focus on the kingdom's deterrence in the region. Trump then met Saudi Arabia's defense minister, Prince Khalid bin Salman, following the joint attack. The other backdrop to consider here is the collapsing truce between Saudi Arabia and Yemen's Houthis, who have launched a naval blockade in the Red Sea. Saudi Arabia is now wedged between hostile Iran-aligned groups in Yemen to its south and in Iraq to its north. So has Saudi Arabia become a combatant in America's war on Iran, or a reluctant neighbor acting in self-defense? How will Iraq protect its national sovereignty, caught between US-Saudi airstrikes and forces loyal to Iran, and with 2 of the world's great oil choke points under threat? How close are we to all-out regional war? I'm joined now by Middle East analyst Zahra Ladha. Zahra, welcome to MEE Live. Saudi Arabia and the US struck Iraq's Popular Mobilization Forces, officially part of Iraq's security infrastructure, but with very close ties to Iran. Why does this make such a politically dangerous situation for Baghdad?
Thank you very much for having me. And now, as you've alluded to, these groups are part of the Iraqi state, part of the state security apparatus, part of Iraq's political life, but they maintain long-standing and deep ties with Tehran. Now, this presents a problem for Baghdad because it's been very difficult to keep these militias from entering the war with the US and previously the war with Israel, Iran, and the US. And this dynamic, where these groups are in the state but can't be constrained, often runs the risk of dragging Iraq into a wider confrontation with the region, even when officials in Baghdad would like to avoid this outcome. And that's what we've seen with this escalation recently on Tuesday. There's a real risk now of these militias launching reciprocal strikes in Saudi Arabia, dragging Iraq into a wider confrontation and seeing potentially civilians affected. I mean, the US and Saudi Arabia did mention that these attacks were on PMF bases across 7 areas in the country. But Iranian state officials and Iranian and Iraqi media also mentioned that some of these strikes hit near a pilgrimage site in the south of the country. And so what you're really seeing is that there's a potential for escalation that extends far beyond militia bases and militia activity and really poses a big risk to the country as a whole.
Iraq has a bit of a sovereignty issue here, doesn't it? Because they have come out and said that the US Saudi strikes on their territory were a violation of their sovereignty. But at the same time, Donald Trump told Fox News that the US Saudi strikes were done in coordination with the Iraqi government. Just explain to us how all of this fits together.
Absolutely. So the new Iraqi premier was instated in Baghdad earlier this year, and this followed several months of political deadlock in Iraq's capital over who this new prime minister would be. Now, the way Iraqi elections work is that you hold parliamentary elections, and then that parliamentary session would then elect a new leader. I wouldn't go as far to say that this is a nominal position, but it does depend on a consensus from a broad range of political parties, some of which these militias are embedded in. Now, when the new prime minister took office, he stated that his first priority was disarming Iran, or disarming militias, many of them linked to Iran, and attracting foreign investment. And to that end, he's attempted to cultivate strong relationships with Saudi Arabia. In a landmark visit to Washington a few weeks ago, signed several energy and economic partnerships with US firms, and really seems to be positioning Iraq not away from Iranian influence, but diversifying its relationships with the region and international partners. Now, this has been a problem in Iraq because one of the preconditions for US investment, also it seems, is the disarming of these Iran-linked militias inside the country. And this is where it becomes a problem for Baghdad. Baghdad cannot be seen to be siding with a foreign attacks on its land. Also cannot be seen to be supporting the militias when its stated mandate is to disarm them. And now this puts Iraq on a collision course, maybe with militias in its own country, or maybe directly with the US. And that is the balancing act that Zaidi now, the new prime minister, is trying to manage.
And indeed, in response to the strikes, the PMF has given Baghdad until the 6th of August to respond. Realistically, what can Baghdad do, and could Iraq become the war's next battlefield?
There is a credible risk of that happening, and what I'd likely expect to see in Baghdad within the coming week is some sort of statement of condemnation and some sort of reassurance to these groups that these attacks won't continue. And really, that's what that statement points towards. It's not really a question of Iraq launching some sort of reciprocal strike in Saudi Arabia. That seems to be beyond the realm of possibility in this scenario. But it's really about the state showing these groups that their interests will be preserved and they will be protected in the event of foreign attacks against them. And this is really, really crucial, even though Baghdad is moving to disarm these groups, because any SSR process, any security sector reform process, relies on trust between these parties, right? And when you have a situation where the Iraqi PM is in Washington one day, potentially traveling to Saudi Arabia, that trip has been cancelled for now, and those states are attacking these groups, you do not have the conditions for disarmament or a political process that moves forward.
And what is Saudi Arabia's game plan here? Has MBS given up on regional de-escalation as the ultimate priority?
I think the strikes that we saw on Tuesday do signal an attempt to restore deterrence or display it, but I wouldn't go as far to say as they've given up on regional diplomacy. It is of note that they haven't struck Iran directly, despite coming under repeated Iranian fire in the last few months. or haven't done so in an overt manner and claimed these attacks. They've opted instead to target groups in Iraq, opted to launch strikes on the Houthis in Yemen, who declared a naval blockade against Saudi Arabia, and have really pushed Saudi Arabia to renew that conflict with them. So what we're seeing is a targeted strikes to restore deterrence in a way that doesn't push the entire region towards further escalation. And Iraq is, difficult to say, a good arena for this, but the best option for Saudi Arabia in these current circumstances, because there is an expectation that Baghdad will find a way to rein these militias in or manage their expectations, or they can resolve this in a diplomatic manner. Whereas a direct Saudi attack on Iran, for example, likely would result in further escalation that maybe other GCC states might join and extend this war.
I understand that, but isn't there a risk that this could backfire, and that by striking Iraq, rather than weakening Iran's grip on the territory, Saudi Arabia actually gives Tehran exactly the narrative it wants?
I don't think it's a question of weakening Iran's grip on Iraq. I think this is the question that's been posed to us policymakers for a really long time. How do we reduce Iran's influence in Iraq? Realistically, there is no real way to reduce their influence. There's a way to recalibrate it. I mean, they share a land border, they have cultural ties, they have security cooperation. The aim of the game now is to formalize those ties through a bilateral capacity rather than an informal one. So these strikes really show Tehran we mean business. There's been reports that several Iranian advisors were also called in the strike. So it is a way to show, we will escalate and we will retaliate, but not in a way that blows the situation out of proportion. But the dynamics in Iraq, when we're talking about Iran's influence, these things are being decided in rooms in Baghdad, among militia bases, in rooms in Tehran and rooms in Washington, as a very complex process, which includes disarmament, which includes sanctions, and which includes kind of the regional conflict that we're seeing right now.
And now to Saudi Arabia's south. Yemen's Houthis are considering charging commercial vessels to pass through the Bab al-Mandeb Strait. Iran is now using Hormuz and, through its allies, Bab al-Mandeb as leverage. How much of the region's oil lifeline can Tehran credibly threaten, and how far can they spread the regional war as a result of this?
Iran's stated objective since the beginning of this war on the 28th of February has been to regionalize it and expand it so it doesn't bear the brunt of this conflict. And the second part of Iranian strategy, as you've alluded to, is increasing the economic cost of this war for everyone that's participating in it. And beyond that, really, it's now a global issue. We can expect to see continued regionalization because this is how Iran escalates the conflict. And we've seen an impasse in recent days over negotiations and continued strikes. The real core issue seems to be the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Iran is very unwilling to give up its leverage there. It considers it as its core deterrence capability, and the US is now demanding that Iran hands over what it considers its core leverage before negotiations even begin. Now, we can expect this regionalization war to continue so long as Iran believes that this is more beneficial for its interests than taking a bad deal that sees it lose its leverage.
Zahra Ladha, thank you. Up next, what does your language mean to you? In 1863, the Russian Empire banned Ukrainian language publishing. It decreed a separate Little Russian language never existed, doesn't exist, and couldn't exist. Later, the USSR mandated spoken Russian for public life across the whole Soviet Union. Japan annexed Korea in 1910 and made Japanese Korea's national language. Then it banned Korean textbooks, forced Koreans to take Japanese names, and shut down Korean language newspapers. In the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, Indigenous children were forced into schools where speaking their native tongue was forbidden. Spain's 20th century dictator Francisco Franco prohibited Catalan, Basque, and Galician. Kurdish was banned in Turkish public life until 1991. De facto restrictions persist today. And though no law mandated it, Welsh-speaking children were picked out by teachers for corporal punishment in a new United Kingdom that equated English with progress. And now, a story from today. This is a Jewish state. Here we only speak Hebrew. These words, reported by Middle East Eye, were allegedly said by a manager to her Palestinian staff, banning them from speaking Arabic at work. And it's not an isolated case. From clothing shops to pharmacies to hospitals, Palestinian citizens of Israel say they're increasingly being told to keep their language out of the workplace. Arabic was spoken on this land long before the State of Israel existed. Today, around 2 million Palestinians hold Israeli citizenship. These are the so-called 48 Palestinians who remained inside the new State of Israel after the 1948 Nakba and make up a fifth of Israel's population. But in 2018, Israel's nation-state law stripped Arabic of its official status and declared national self-determination in Israel as unique to the Jewish people. Arabic was not banned, and racist discrimination at work is illegal, but lawyers tell MEE it has become more open since the war on Gaza began. As a national election approaches in October, Palestinians' political voice hangs in the balance in more ways than just language. I'm joined now by journalist Samah Watad, who reported the story for us. Samah, welcome to MEE Live. You spoke to workers across different sectors. What made you realise that theirs was a story worth telling?
So we should start by noting that this matter of speaking Arabic is not new for Palestinian citizens of Israel, and over the years, when crises are raising, we have noticed that this issue is become more in the public, and people are. Like Israeli people, Israeli businesses are requiring this more and more from Palestinian citizens of Israel who work there. But actually, what made this a story for me is that after October 7th, things become even harsher for Palestinians to express their identities and to be themselves, actually. And the Israeli law is not actually like it is not decisive regarding this issue. You don't have a clear legal note about this issue, so which make it harder for even like lawyers to talk about this. And you can feel it in the air, like the spirit of this period of time. You can feel it. Discrimination become more easier for Israelis. We have experienced a crisis moments even before October 7th, but after October 7th, we feel that it's really easier for Israelis to be more like to discriminate Palestinians, citizens of Israel, because they are Palestinians. And I wrote also in the piece the incident that I experienced with my friend when we were in the park with her two little kids who really wanted to, to play with the pets, their dogs and other pets, and they were refused to play with the dogs. And I asked my friend that she is a Palestinian citizen with hijab. I asked her, do you think it is discrimination? And she said, for sure. I mean, it's clear. I really face that every day on daily basis in her life. And this is like this made this even harder for me as a journalist to see, because I also one friend reached out to me and said, Samah, I'm so happy, I'm so proud of you that you can speak about these stuff, because normal people like me can't say this. It sounds that journalists can speak about like speak up their identity, whether but other people can't do that, actually. And this I mean, it doesn't say that we as journalists are, protected. We also face other, challenges. But people really feel that they are not acceptable. Their identity are not acceptable in the public.
On this October the 7th milestone, one of your sources actually told you that her manager threatened staff for speaking Arabic as it might unsettle customers traumatized by the 7th of October attacks. So that's a really direct link. But we can look back further for another milestone, which was Israel's 2018 nation-state law. This downgraded Arabic, but it didn't ban it. Exactly how far back does this issue date?
So this is what I really wanted to mention in the beginning, that this is not new. The discussion over Arabic as a language here is not new. The battle here over identity and which identity is more powerful than the other. And Israelis are really threatened they are really threatened by the Palestinian identity. So everything is related to the Palestinian identity feels like they want to try to push it back from the public. I can also, it's not only Arabic. For example, when we had demonstrations, before October 7th, we always had, as Palestinian citizens of Israel, the right to raise the Palestinian flag. But after October 7th, no one dared to do that. It's very hard for people to express their identity, and even like when leaders, political activists are calling people to come to political activity, any demonstration, even events like very small modest events, people are not coming to these events or demonstrations because they feel that like this government is fearing people from expressing their identities.
Now, as you say, all this is about more than just language. You personally, you move between Arabic, Hebrew, and English. If you reflect on your own experiences, what does language mean for a person's sense of identity? And I suppose specifically for Palestinian sense of identity?
Like it's different for different people. I can understand people from Palestinians from Gaza and Palestinians from the West Bank who would fear from hearing any Hebrew. For us as Palestinian citizens of Israel, it's normal. This is our normal life. Like you don't have Arabic speakers everywhere. Like 90% of the services you will get in Hebrew. So if you don't Hebrew, you will not, cope in the space. So Hebrew is here. Like it's the official language of the country and the official language that you need to talk to when you communicate with the state. It's only in Hebrew. And after 2018, after taking this status from the Arabic language as an official language, we have seen that many companies and many public companies and many, commissions, official commissions started to make it less important for them to speak Arabic. I remember myself working as a customer service in Arabic to bring this service in Arabic for people 10 years ago. But now it's not for granted. I mean, just it depends on the company if it's wanted or not, but it's not even like for, like public service, public companies that are owned by the government. Once it was must to have Arabic on your web page or something like that. But now, because of this new law, it's not something that they must do in their places and their businesses or companies.
What does that do emotionally? One of your sources, something she said really struck me. She's a 19-year-old about to start university. She said that this was the first time she truly understood what it felt like to be treated badly purely because of her identity. How does this kind of overt discrimination you describe impact Palestinians going through the day?
Yes, unfortunately, this is the situation. Like this is, I can say that it's very critical for her and for people in her age, because they are going to college and to university where they need to shape their identity. This is the place where people are expected, you know, to form their political activity, their, you know, interest in life. And this is so sad, because we have also heard about how Palestinian students in the universities are suffering from discrimination, from asking them to push back their identities, not to have, you know, and on the other side, we see that the extreme right activists and organizations are taking control over the universities and trying to take the rights, the basic rights from Palestinian students. And this is like something that as Palestinians, we have been, you know, experiencing for years, but in different ways. It wasn't that bold for us. But after October 7th, it's become, as I said earlier, harsher. And you know what? I think people they feel that they allowed to do this in public places.
And also, since the 7th of October, a kind of contradiction has emerged in this policing of Palestinian communities. As you point out, they're very heavily policed. Their language is being policed. And more than that, hundreds of Palestinians in Israel have been arrested or disciplined simply for expressing solidarity with Gaza. But at the same time as being very heavily policed, Palestinian communities in Israel are experiencing a violent crime wave. You've reported on this as well. And they say that they are unprotected by the police in light of this. A record 252 Arab citizens were reportedly killed in 2025. Talk us through this gap in law enforcement.
So I think this is the biggest thing happening in the Palestinian Arab society inside of Israel. We have recorded more than 160 people were killed in crime activity in the last 7 months. It's like in the last this records is very high for 2 million people. You know, it's even less than 2 million people, citizens of Israel, because if you will not count the Palestinians in East Jerusalem who are not citizens, they are residents. So what I'm trying to say that there is a feeling that the government is letting this to happen, okay? And letting this happen for Palestinians, like by purpose. Like, this is not a speculation that I raise now, okay? This is the understanding for every normal Palestinian, even people who are not agree with, you know, political activity, who are a little bit not interested to be political in this era. We, like most of the people, 90% of the people, really realize that this government want us to kill one another, and having this, like, in one hand, in the other hand, you can't express your identity, so it's linked together. It is, we are not being like policing, not having this, you know, the police not doing their job when it comes to crime. This is not like by accident. This is because this crime happened in an Arab Palestinian village. And like, the 76 years have paved the ground for such situation to happen, okay? We're talking about discrimination over everything you can think about, like from housing, from everything.
We're having this discussion just months before October's national election. How are these everyday grievances you describe, housing, policing, language, how are they affecting how Palestinians feel about voting in the election?
So I think it's clear for everyone that this election is very critical. We are in a very critical moment where everyone understands that this government needs to go away. We need to send Benjamin Netanyahu, Ben Gvir and Smotrich away from power. And I want to be clear, taking like removing Netanyahu and his government from power doesn't mean that actually the Israeli politics is not actually, you know, proposing or suggesting something so different from what they have, but we are trying to limit the harassment, limit what the risk, because we're talking about, like, if this government continue to be in power, we will see things that we never imagined that it will happen. I've just started to learn about like how the Ben Gvir and his ministry is actually preparing a new building, a new facility for the death penalty law. They are preparing themselves to do this, okay? And we're hearing a lot of, you know, activists and lawyers who work over this cases, and they are very worried. Palestinian prisoners are under risk. If this government continues to be in power, it's very dangerous, not only for Palestinian citizens of Israel. You know, we're the less people, like the less group to get harmed. I'm talking about the genocide continues in Gaza, the settlers attack in the West Bank. I mean, the Arab vote is very critical in this moment, just to try to improve. I don't know. I don't say that we for sure can end all the problems, but this time the vote will, the Arab vote, the Palestinian Arab vote, will have an impact.
Sama, I'm sensing you're very passionate about Palestinians mobilizing to vote against the current coalition. On the other side, within the community, many are calling for a boycott. They argue that voting legitimizes a system that treats them as second class, colonizes their land, and commits probable genocide against their people. What do you say to people who feel that voting might legitimize this system?
So this is a very big discussion. And before, like, if you asked me 4 years ago, I would say, as a journalist, this is not my role to say to people, go to vote or not to do that. So, okay, I mean, this is not my work. This is not my job. You have your leaders who would, you know, try to convince you whether to do this or not. But they will continue to do all of that, even though we don't go to vote. Okay, not going to vote will not change anything. It doesn't say not voting will not have any impact. Zero impact with not voting. I'm not saying that voting will bring the 100% impact, even the 1% impact. I'm just saying that we are between these, we're choosing between the bad and the worst. It's not between the good and the bad, okay? We are aware of, like, I always say, the Israeli politics and the Israeli society are going more and more over the rights. They are going toward the rights politics. They are more extreme in their the hatred that we experienced as citizens. Okay, it's really, you can see it in the streets. It's not something that you can say, okay, I'm not sure about it. But it's a very critical moment that we need to do something, not for us, for the people who really suffer. Okay, I can't imagine myself watching a Palestinian prisoner being killed on camera, live on camera. And, like, you know, everyone, and because the Israeli politics are motivated by fear, Israeli extreme right is using this fear to motivate and to mobilize their audience to vote for the extreme right, to fear them from Arabs to go and vote. Okay. On the other side, what is trying to be who are like the parties who are claiming to be the left are trying to mobilize Arab citizens to vote for Zionist Jewish Israeli parties like the Democrats and other places. I don't say that again. The Israeli politics are proposing something different. So big differences between the parties or the actors. But it's critical for us now to do something. And if this is the thing that we need to do, I think we should do it. Just to try to make a very small difference.
Samah Watad, thank you for your time. And to all of you watching, thank you for tuning in. That's all that we have time for today. Like, subscribe, make sure you're following us on social media at Middle East Eye. You can email meelive@middleeasteye.net. I'll be here live at 5 every Tuesday and Thursday, noon if you're in New York. See you then.